everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Blacking Off. I am Derek Blackman. If you are not familiar with my main YouTube channel, Some Black Guy, but I'm sure 99.9% of you guys are. Now, for the people that are watching, because you can watch it on my YouTube channel, you notice that I'm standing up, and I thought it would be much better to do this because, you know, everybody sits down when they're doing the podcast. Obviously, it makes sense. And that's what I did in the first episode, but the vibe was off. You know, I got the lighting wrong. I had some audio problems, so some problems, and it kind of was like a sign to me. I'm like, you know, I should just do it the way that I really like to do it. I like standing up. I like to move a little bit. I like to sway back and forth. I kind of get in a rhythm. Helps me talk a little bit better. And so I thought I'll just do it like this. I think it'll be much better for everybody. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So I think this is going to be much better. I'm already happy. Now, so the first thing that I want to talk about, the first thing I want to mention before we really get into all the stuff that I have is I don't really remember how it came up, but I was recording the Snark Tank podcast with Chris Reagan and Tom Sweeney, and a gentleman by the name of Tariq Nasheed came up. Now, I'm sure most of you know who Tariq Nasheed is. I'm talking about he was like back in 2017. There was a lot of drama, you know, surrounding the YouTube community that I was a part of, the Anti-SJW community, the skeptic community, whatever you want to call it, which I'll get into more of that later. But it's just a lot of beef. And he came up, and one thing that this guy called me, he called me an emo Negro. And it was hilarious because, and I have a video breaking down the segment. He did a live stream, right? He used to do live streams, and he had like maybe a 5-minute segment or something, maybe even more, like just talking a bunch of trash about all these people that were involved in VidCon, you know, the YouTube convention. And he was kind of taking personal shots at me, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. It was one of my most favorite videos I've ever made.
Yeah, he's like an emo Negro. Yeah, he's like one of them emo Negroes.
Like this my partner in crime at the time, Kasara Vera, she helped me break it down, and it was extremely fun. And I also thought it was hilarious because he was like making fun of me for like listening to like rock and metal and stuff, and then he's wearing a Rolling Stone shirt as he's saying all of that stuff, just to kind of let you know like this guy's a phony. But he is funny. His trash talking is actually pretty good. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Emo Negro came up, and I want to show you guys something. So I have right here, there's a lot of really, really talented people that follow me, and I've gotten an amazing amount of fan art throughout the years, and I'm just so appreciative of all of it. It's so amazing. And one piece that I got right here is Emo Negro himself. So somebody made this, right? And it's pretty incredible. Like, it's really, 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 really incredible. Like, I really appreciate it. And so the subject came up that I should make a YouTube channel called Emo Negro for the sole purpose of getting it to 100K. Getting it to 100K just so I can get one of those silver play buttons and have it say Emo Negro on it. Just for that sole purpose. So for the people that are listening right now, every single one of you listening, if you could do me a favor and subscribe, I'm going to leave the link in the description. I will leave it in the show notes. It'll be easily accessible. Please subscribe to Emo Negro. You know, there's no time limit, but I want to get this thing to 100K. Maybe I'll post some content on there. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. All I want to do is get that to 100K so I can apply for that silver play button. And then I can just show people, look at this. Look what YouTube printed out. That's fantastic. I'm hoping you guys will get behind me. I'm sure people will be interested because I can only imagine how many dumb plaques and how many things that are just out there with all the ridiculous amount of names that people make and that have reached over 100K. Like, I think it's pretty great that I have one of those silver play buttons that says Some Black Guy on it. That definitely makes me happy. Like, more than having that milestone, just having it actually say Some Black Guy on it, it's pretty amazing, especially because the Some Black Guy username is something I've been using since I was 16 on MySpace. For a while, like, my name was just Some Black Guy on there. And I'll never forget when one of my friends, I requested him, right? I wanted to be his friend, and then so it says, always says the name wants to be your friend. So then it just says some black guy wants to be your friend, and he got a good chuckle out of it, and that's when I kind of knew I was onto something. So whenever I really did something, I would pretty much choose some black guy attached to it. And for the OG people that have been following my channel, this channel, because I made this channel in 2014. If you've been following me since the avatar was Dudley from Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, that's when that's the OGs. If anybody has been following me that long, just hats off, because it's been a journey. It's been really interesting. So many twists and turns of YouTube. YouTube is kind of a cesspool right now. It's just so unfortunate the way it works and the way the algorithm we're all at the mercy of the algorithm. And I'm really, really, really at the mercy of the algorithm. But I mean, things are okay because there's people like you guys that are supporting me, hit me up on Patreon, and when I'm streaming, you're kicking me down some stuff. I appreciate you all so much. And by the way, if you do want to support me, if you guys want to actually put in some questions in the AMA segment, the mailbag segment, the Q&A, whatever you want to call it, you can hit me up at patreon.com/someblackguy, and then just $2. That's it, man. It's just $2. Ain't no thing. But without further ado, let's get into some stuff that I'm sure you guys really want to hear about. A lot of you want to hear about the anti-SJW community and what's going on with it and where did it go.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
The anti-SJW community, or some people would call it the skeptic community. It really just picked your poison. And it was controversial from the beginning for a myriad of reasons. There you had the progressive ideologues, or the, SJWs, that didn't like what we were doing, obviously, because we were trashing a lot of their talking points and kind of telling them to shut up and sit down and stop being so angry and stupid. So obviously they were mad about that. You had people that were kind of mad about the whole community thing, just even being called a community, because the people that considered us skeptics or whatever, they were like, oh, a community of skeptics, that doesn't seem very skeptical to me, which is stupid. That's a really stupid thing to say, because, you can have a bunch of scientists that are very skeptical, right? And they like to go on empirical evidence and data and whatever, and they can be a community. They can. And the whole idea of a community is not having some type of hive mind, which is what a lot of people would try to accuse us of, or something like that. It's about just a lot of people coming together for a common goal or a common ideal, something like that. Kind of like a community in a neighborhood. Everybody's living on one block. A bunch of different people, right? But they have the common goal of coming together to live and keep this neighborhood safe, and just everybody be respectable and whatnot. I mean, just like a church, you have a lot of people that believe in the same God, but they're all individuals and they all do their own things. They're all different people. So it's something like that never bothered me, but sometimes I would just even stray away from using that because of just, I don't want to hear anyone's shit. Like, I don't, shut up. Like, I don't want to hear you try to, regurgitate something that somebody else told you, because you don't believe this. Someone told you to believe it. And that's one of the biggest problems that was happening around the anti-SJW stuff. Now, obviously, it was booming because things like Gamergate, and there was just all that weird stuff happening. It was, in my opinion, all the stuff that blew up, a few years ago, it was necessary. Because if you even look back to a lot of people that were involved, including myself, it wasn't anything like, we weren't planning on this stuff. Like, no one was like, oh, I can't wait for a bunch of people in the gaming industry, a bunch of journalists and a bunch of developers to be fucking terrible and just be trash human beings and treat their demographic like garbage. And then, say, pop culture to be littered in super woke people and try to say everybody's racist, sexist, and homophobic and all that stuff. Like, nobody wanted that. Like, say, when I started Some Black Guy, the channel, I wanted to be a gamer. I wanted to stream. I wanted to have fun. Like, I saw people like PewDiePie and KSI, and I saw, these people are just killing it, regardless of how you felt about them or feel about them currently. They're killing it. And I was like, I have a good enough personality to where I think I could garner an audience and do that stuff. But then when I started looking into the game industry more, because I would already read like things on Kotaku, sometimes Rock Paper Shotgun, sometimes Polygon, but usually Games Radar, which Games Radar, kudos to them, because they were one of the few gaming websites that were just putting out articles about games, and they didn't taint it with, white male gamers and cis white this and all of that trash. Even some of my favorite podcasts I would listen to, they couldn't escape the gravitational pull, the vortex that was Gamergate. So that stuff, it just got all crazy. So then at a certain point, since you were really passionate, I was really passionate about gaming. And then, of course, when some of the SJWs, I like to call them progressive ideologues, because that's what they really are. Because social justice warrior, obviously, that's what everybody knows. People like that as. But to be accurate, I say these are progressive ideologues. Because I know some progressives that are very decent human beings. They just have progressive ideals, but I wouldn't consider them an ideologue. I wouldn't consider them like, say, a zealot. And so I like to just kind of classify them more like that, to have some sort of separation. But anywho, just kind of skipping forward a little bit. Yeah, those people were also messing with metal. And you guys know I love metal as well. So it's like, I can't have this. I got to say something. So then my stuff started catching on. A lot of other people's stuff started catching on. It became like kind of a movement, in a sense. It kind of became like Paul Joseph Watson would like to say, the counterculture or whatever. And the interesting thing was there was a lot of crossover, right? There was a lot of crossover. There was a lot of people from all different walks of life. A lot of people from the left, right, center, everywhere, all came together for the common goal of having people to shut the hell up. To shut up, let us enjoy our video games. Let us enjoy our the entertainment outlets, the mediums that have existed for a very long time, without a bunch of people always nitpicking and saying, this is racist, this is sexist, you shouldn't do this, this is insensitive. Oh, why are you making these girls sexy and this and that? Oh, the power fantasy, all this crap that's like, I don't want to hear any of this stuff. I just want to play some fun games and watch some good movies. That's about it. And pretty much we all came together and we pretty much agreed on that sentiment, right? And it wasn't until things started to kind of calm down a little bit, that's when like weird shit started to happen. So if people were really wondering what exactly happened to the anti-SJW community, why did it disband so much? Why was the community destroyed? And don't get it wrong, the community definitely was destroyed, because there was a community of people that were from all walks of life, like I said. But then you had people, ideologues, not from the left, ideologues from the right. The far right started to pour in. They started to pour in, and then they started to say, hey, let me talk about my ideals. Let's not talk about, like we always talk about, oh, we hate identity politics. And, that's just a blanket statement, because obviously you don't hate every single form of identity politics, because at a technicality, almost every sort of politics at all is attached to some sort of identity. But you know what we're talking about when we say identity politics. You're talking about the wokeness and all that shit. Now, so most of those people that we were battling, the progressive ideologues, progressive. And then there became the hardcore, super hardcore, traditional conservative ideologues. The ones that, wanted the ethno-states and all of that shit. All of that stuff started to get poured in and saying, we need to talk about this stuff. This is where the conversation really should be going. And they missed the memo. Those people didn't understand what people were originally trying to do. All we wanted to do was have people shut up, and so we can play our games and just live our lives, stuff like that. And they were like, no, we want to talk about this stuff that's important to us. This is where the real conversation's going. And then so other people started getting involved, and then all that stuff got tainted. All of a sudden, all the progressive ideologues were like, this is what the anti-SJW community is. There are a bunch of identity politics on the right. They're all racist. And then it started to give some of the stuff that they were saying some credence. Unfortunately, some people that I hung out with, people that I met at like VidCon and stuff, for example, it's like they're tied to a bunch of shitty stuff. And then it's like, man, it was all fun and games. But then it's like, oh, there's certain people you can't even talk to anymore because they're associating with people that are just really ruining shit, man. Like it became much more than, say, having fun and there being a community of just kind of pushing back on all this the authoritarian progressive ideologues, shit like that. It became much different. It got completely tainted. And so what happened is when that went down, all the walks of life that were coming together for that common goal, they all split. Everyone went their own ways. So everybody who was more on the progressive side, they went back to the progressive camp. People that were more on the right went to the right camps. So, and then everybody started shitting on each other. It became really cringy and stupid. It got to the point where there was people that used to get along and used to tolerate each other. It's like, say, I never had a huge problem with Paul Joseph Watson. I still don't dislike the guy. I mean, he says a lot of dumb shit on Twitter. Obviously, I've poked fun at him a lot on Twitter. He's trying to poke fun at me. It's just like, I don't care. Banter, I'm totally cool with banter. I'm not a pussy. I promise you. It's just the internet. Like, I try to really get that across to people. This is the internet. This is not real life. So all that stuff doesn't like ruffle my feathers, you know? Like, I told one of my friends the other night that, you know what really scared me? When I got a gun pulled on me. That's real fear. Somebody bantering on the internet or trying to call you out or something like that, that's not fear. So when people try to say, oh, you didn't respond or you need to respond or something like that, I'm like, what is this? What are these people that live online? What is this shit? That isn't real. That's stupid. It's fake. When somebody actually comes in your face and threatens your life or whatever, that's real. That's real fear. So anybody talking shit online, that's a make-believe to me. And y'all should think the same way. So everyone that's trying to get all up in arms about debates and all this shit, y'all need to kind of sit down and really think about what you're saying and what you're doing. And when you call people pussies and stuff like that, it means nothing online. Like, for reals. It's banter. Keep that in mind. Now, anywho, so people like Paul Joseph Watson, anyone that was like on the right, people that were kind of in the mix of the anti-SJW stuff, everybody was kind of tolerated, weren't they? You remember that like 3 years ago? Like, say, there's people that I know that are on the left that I consider friends. They weren't really being really nasty and horrible. Now I'm seeing those same people being really terrible towards people that are like on the right or something. And I'm like, my whole deal is, if that was your shit from the first time, like from the beginning, if that was your shtick from the first time, you were just like, I don't like conservatives and I'm going to shit on them, I'd be like, whatever, fine. I really don't care. It's weird when the community, though, got disbanded, seeing people do that now, kind of retreat to their corners and find community in their camps, and then now we're going to attack all these other people. That's when I was just like, this sucks. This is gross. Because I remember a few years ago, I was able to jump on a live stream with people that were all over the political spectrum. People that were, chill, even though they had certain beliefs that I may disagree with. And I don't mean like, say, the type of beliefs where it's like, I am a terrible and intolerant person and I have hate in my heart. Not people like that, but people that were just like, I think abortion is evil or wrong. I'm like, well, I disagree, but whatever. We can be cordial about this and we can jump on a live stream and laugh and joke about other things. We can come together and talk shit about Tariq Nasheed because we all agree across the board that he's ridiculous. He's just kind of a fake black supremacist, right? He's like a master troll, and we can all laugh about it. And that all faded away when all of those other politics got involved and other people were like, I don't want anything to do with this stuff. And I don't blame them. I understand. It was really unfortunate when that shit happened because, yeah, it was definitely a different vibe. It was really fun. And I think that was the most important thing people kind of forgetting. I think the majority of people that were surrounded that in the community just wanted to have fun. Sure, there's a lot of people that just want to make money. The people that are really interested in making money, they're still making their videos. They're still pumping them out every damn day. Still trying to get their views up and everything. They're still existing. They're still doing their thing. But all the other people that kind of left or they're making less content or whatever, I think they're just like, well, this shit isn't fun anymore. I've seen a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people behind the scenes like, damn, yeah, YouTube was fun. Because, like, obviously there's things like the adpocalypse and everything, but there was that little sector we had. And it's not just the anti-SJW community. I should also mention, like, say something like the commentary community. That shit's broken too, but for a different reason. There was kind of a golden era of YouTube, like, say, the sweet spot around 2016 to 2017, that a lot of people were having a good time, bantering, talking shit, just making video responses and this, and people were just, it was just so entertaining. And a lot of that shit's gone. A lot of people don't really talk to each other. A lot of people aren't in chat groups anymore because of stupid shit that has happened. A lot of people like don't use Discord because of shit that has happened with Discord, and people are doing all this weird stuff, and they're doing shady stuff, and they're saying shady stuff, and they're doing all this weird shit that, like, I say, guys, this isn't real life. This is some dumb bullshit. Don't take it so seriously. Stop trying to ruin people's lives because someone's talking shit about you and you're so fucking hurt. Like Tyler the Creator says, dude, turn off cyberbullying. Just turn off your computer. Go relax. Sit down. Go play some video games. Like, real talk. Like, this is not something like, I'm not trying to challenge anybody. I'm just saying that things got so weird, and it was unfortunate. I'll be honest. A lot of people I talked to, we kind of unanimously agree that there was that golden era of YouTube that was so much funner. The amount of live streams I was on before, and some of the ones that I've hosted, which is like, hey, everybody, just jump on. Let's have a good time. Let's have some drinks. Let's talk about whatever. Like, how much does that happen nowadays? Not much. So it's an unfortunate thing, but I think in the surface, I kind of tackled what necessarily happened. I guess the only thing that I didn't mention is that inevitably things were going to die down anyway, because, you know, obviously the progressive ideologues, the SJWs, whatever, there was like a peak of them being so insane. Like the peak, like I remember, remember MTV News? MTV News saying like New Year's resolutions for white people or something, and just being blatantly racist towards white people. You don't really see that much content coming from these outlets anymore. Or like, say there was those big voices. Like, I don't remember the last time I've heard the name Riley Dennis. If you guys know who Riley Dennis is, trans YouTuber that loved Antifa. One of my favorite videos that I've made was a video countering her points, what she was saying, why Antifa violence is justified, and I just think that was so silly. And I forgot she existed until now. I completely forgot about it, like legitimately. And like, when's the last time you've heard like someone like Anita Sarkeesian's kind of tried to creep back into and say some things here and there? But really, Anita Sarkeesian, just huge con artist, right? When's the last time you really heard about her? Who's making videos about Anita Sarkeesian? Who's making videos about Francesca Ranzi or John McIntosh or just any of those people? A lot of them just quieted down because I think they realized that their messages and stuff that they were saying, they were just screaming into the void. A lot of people didn't really believe what they were saying. It just sounded good at the time. And one thing that is unfortunate about people is that they're so easily susceptible to bullshit. That's who we are as humans. Sometimes we try our best to be skeptical, but sometimes you hear something that does sound really good to you on the surface and you just run with it. And that's what happened to a lot of these people. A lot of these people that want to protect who they claim are marginalized groups, you know, or like, say when they talk about when they talk about in the way that they portray black people, that we're all victims of the system and everything like that. It doesn't matter who you are, even if you're like a millionaire, even if you're like Magic Johnson or something like that, and you have a lot of stake in a lot of businesses, and you're probably a billionaire or something like that. They still would pull a card like, well, you know that those other white billionaires, they still have more money. You'll never be as rich as them, and they always kind of play that game to where it's never going to be enough, and people of color are never going to be able to overcome, because there always needs to be that victim and that dragon to chase, you know, that demon to slay. And I say, piss off, because I'm going to grind, and I don't care what you think. You know what I mean? I'm going to do my own thing, and that's what I've always been saying. But I digress on that, man. In just a pretty little bow, I just want to say, yeah, I'm definitely disappointed that things kind of withered away. I think things would have withered away naturally, but I think that because of the identity politics coming from the right that really started to infiltrate, things got like things disbanded way quicker. Because like I said, we came together to pretty much swat away the identity politics on the far left. And then once they were kind of starting to simmer down, it's like, hey, guys, you know what's a good idea? Ethno states and shit. And they're like, oh my God, what is this shit? No one wants to talk about that shit. Get out of here, please. You know, you guys go to your place, like, just didn't want it in there, and then it became a fucking problem. And that's just the unfortunate reality of how things went. And it is what it is. You know, I mean, to be honest, I still have a lot of friends on YouTube. I still talk to a lot of people occasionally. I still hang out with some people in real life. So I don't regret any of that stuff. But I guess this is just, you know, reminiscing and kind of just examining what really happened. And some other people might have some other perspectives or something, you know, which maybe I'll even have a conversation with some other people if they're willing to talk about it. But this is just kind of from my perspective and how I remember things happening and how I saw things went down. And yeah, I think I did a pretty good job. And do I think anything like this is ever going to happen again? Maybe in a generation. Because definitely the pendulum always swings when there's always outrage culture on other sides. And then a generation might kind of like come up again, come together, and swat the shit down. Right now, though, things are just a jumbled fucking mess.
Mock, yeah, ing, yeah, bird, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jim Carrey versus Me Too. Oh man, no one can escape the wrath of Me Too. So I'm some of you probably heard this already, but let me break it down. So as you guys know, Sonic the Hedgehog came out on Valentine's Day. And I guess it did pretty well in the box office. Last time I checked, it did like well over 50 million over the weekend, which that sounds pretty good to me. So I'm actually going to see it maybe in the next few days or something like that. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I props to the studio, seriously, for taking the time to fix the egregious problems that Sonic had. It's weird how they got to that point in the first place. That's always the thing that's always the noodle scratcher, really, right? When people, like, don't you test screen stuff? Isn't there just, like, any Sonic fan ever, anyone ever that even remotely likes Sonic, would they see that and be like, that's absolutely terrible? Like, no way. No, like, absolutely not. Why wouldn't you just make him look like Sonic? What is this? Like, I always wonder decisions like that. I always wonder decisions. Sometimes I think it always comes down to the artists, that they're just being very pompous and they're like, I want to take my direction. I don't care about the fans. I want to put my spin and my stamp on it. And I'm like, piss off, man. This isn't for you. This isn't for you. Piss off. But I digress. So Jim Carrey, doing the rounds. He's got to do some interviews, and I think it was in the UK when he was doing this interview. And I can't remember the outlet. I apologize to the outlet. It's Heat something. I don't think it's Heat Wave, but it's something with heat in it. But I do remember the girl's name. Her name is Charlotte Long, that was interviewing Jim Carrey. And he's in hot water because of the question she asked and the response he gave.
After all you've done in your career and in your life, is there anything still left on your bucket list?
Just you.
Oh, wow.
That's it. It's all done now.
I don't know what to say to that.
I know. Just own it.
Just you. I mean, look. All right, so there's only two ways to really interpret this, and there's only two correct ways to approach it. So you got to listen to what Jim Carrey even said after. Like when she said, is there anything else like that you want to do or something? And he says, just you. And she's all like, like how, she's all like kind of taken back by it, but she's obviously giggling and having a good time. And then he says, it's all done now. I'm pretty sure that's what he says. So that should kind of let you know, well, clearly it can't be sexual. He can't be talking about something sexual unless they banged beforehand. Like if he's actually talking about doing her and he said it's all done now. He's talking past tense, or he's talking about like it's done. So what is he talking about? What could he possibly be talking about? Oh, maybe he's talking about the interview. When he's talking about just you, maybe he's saying being interviewed by her, by Charlotte Long. He must be talking about that. Because otherwise, it doesn't really make sense unless there's something we don't know, like they hooked up prior to the interview. And if they did, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, good for Jim Carrey, man. He's getting up there. He's almost 60 years old. He's smashing someone like Charlotte Long. Charlotte Long, she ain't bad, man. She ain't bad at all. But like, so on the real though, there's really, that's the correct way, in my opinion, how you would interpret that because of the language that he used. But now, let's break it down. Let's just say he was talking about banging her. Like, let's say he like, oh, I want to bang this girl. And that's what he literally meant. Was that so bad? Would it be so bad either? Because the language that he used, too, just saying just you, is like the most PG way of saying that. The most, I would say a PG, not rated G, but PG for sure. And then look at her response. She's giggling. She's loving that. Even if it was about that, I would say, oh, it's about to go down. They're definitely going to smash. And good for them. I mean, 2 consenting adults. Anything wrong with that? Not whatsoever. Now look at, and let's go with the narrative that it was about that. It was about him wanting to smash her. Let's say she gives a negative reaction. Well, then it turns a little complicated, right? Because even though what he said was kind of harmless, her reaction means everything. If she gave like a grossed out look and kind of like an how dare you say that? I'm a married woman or whatever her response would be. Then maybe getting some backlash would be somewhat understandable. I would still find it hilarious, to be honest, if I'm talking about this scenario. But at the same time, I'd be like, I understand why people are mad because he didn't read the room. She didn't like that. And maybe Jim should be like, hey, my bad. You know, I was just trying to be funny and maybe the joke didn't land or something like that. But clearly, in this scenario, if he was talking about banging her, the joke landed because her reaction wasn't a nervous laugh. It was totally just like, I mean, Jim Carrey was saying, just own it. That's how that would be interpreted. But let's go back to what I was just saying before. When he said, like, done, like it's all done now. He can't be talking about that. He just can't. So what we have is people, because there's people that were tweeting stuff out. There's people that were outraged, of course. There's people that were just losing their minds, thinking that, oh, Jim Carrey is so inappropriate. What a gross person. Jim Carrey needs to be canceled. You know, all that shit, because, you know, it's the whole Me Too, cancel culture. You know what I'm talking about. But it just, how did we get here? I mean, I feel like you have to really want to be mad about shit to really be offended by that. Because when I first heard that, I was like, he must be talking about the interview. I can't see it any other way. And believe me, I want to see it in the way of him banging her. Because in my perverted mind, that seems much better. That seems way more fun. And look, I don't know if Jim Carrey is married, if he has I don't know if he's with somebody. Because maybe things would be also kind of complicated if he was with somebody. Like he has a girlfriend or a spouse or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you're hitting on her. So I'm imagining at this level, Jim Carrey probably has somebody at this age. I'm just assuming. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. I don't really care that much. If he does have somebody, I mean, you got to think he's definitely talking about the interview. And it's just like, I cannot believe you're really grasping at straws. You want to talk about reaching, right? I always use this joke about that was a greater reach than Halo. You can find that, man. I don't know. The first time I probably used that joke was probably 2016 or something like that. When I really started to get on Twitter, because I've always had a Twitter. I've had a Twitter since 2009, right? Like fucking pretty much everybody has. But no one really used it. And then I started using it when it's like, okay, I'm starting to gain an audience and like, let me try to put out some one-liners and let me try to be funny and stuff. But yeah, this is so ridiculous. And I can only imagine how fast would I be canceled Like, legit. How fast would I be canceled if I was as famous as Jim Carrey or something like that? Because the type of jokes that I say, the stuff that I would say to her, you know, the stuff that I've said about Jeanette McCurdy, for example, man, like, I do like being where I am, legitimately. Like, I have an audience, and I'm very grateful for that, but I am a Z-grade E-celeb. I do not matter in pop culture whatsoever. And that is 100% fine with me. But it's just like, imagine just getting to a level to where, like, all of a sudden somebody can take all those tweets and then the little comments that I've made about Jeanette McCurdy and just be like, this he's so inappropriate. This is harassment or something like that. I'm like, number one, I'm just joking. Yes, I do find Jeanette McCurdy attractive, and I think she's really chill and funny and all that stuff and very talented. But at the same time, I'm joking. I'm here to entertain. I'm here to have fun. You know, if I really legitimately 100% was like, I want to court Jeanette McCurdy, I wouldn't be acting like a fucking goofball, because that shit ain't sexy. You know what I mean? If she stumbled upon that stuff, I don't think she would be flattered. You know what I mean? So and the way that she is, I think she would understand that I'm joking. So that's why I continue to make passes, because it's fun. Like relax, guys. Like, I remember I saw a guy, I think I've made like 2 references to, like, oh, I love Asian women. I put that energy out there. I'm talking about, I think it was just twice. Like, okay. And they were just like cute little subtle jokes. Like, hey, yeah, I really like Asian women. But at the end of the day, like, I made a video talking about, like, have I ever dated black women? Because this was a question that came up quite a few times. And I thought, what an odd question. I've only been, like, popular on YouTube for like 2 years. It's 2 years out of decades of my life. You know, so it's kind of weird how people try to put you in a certain box. Like, I've never seen you with a black girl, so have you ever dated any? And it's like, yeah, I have quite a bit, actually. Especially when I lived in LA like a decade ago, briefly. And there's a lot of black women here. A lot of gorgeous black women here. Went on a lot of dates, you know? It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I'm the type of person, I'm looking for the connection. I really am. I'm one of those gay people. I want that precious connection and all that stuff. The looks is like the icing on the cake, right? So when I say, like, oh, I really love redheads and I really love Asian women, it doesn't matter. Fun fact, I've never dated an Asian woman. I've never dated a redheaded woman. So it doesn't matter. So, I mean, it's just like, people kind of need to chill out a little bit, right? Now, I know I'm getting way off topic, right? I'm not talking about Jim Carrey anymore. But I think it's always nice when you kind of deviate from subjects and stuff like that. I think those are always the most interesting talking points, when you can kind of get to something else that's somewhat interesting. And I think that's always interesting right there. Talking about preferences and different perceptions people give off and stuff like that. I think it's because, you know, I'm not a stereotypical black guy, right? That was the reason why people were like, oh, I've never seen you. I've seen you date 2 European women, so you must not be into black women. Weird. Very weird. It's a weird conclusion to come to, but at the same time, it's not surprising, because I always say we have a critical thinking problem in just all over the world, where people have the original thought and then they don't go any further with it. And it's like, man, if you would have only just held on to that thought and just kind of thought about it just a little bit more, maybe for 10, 15 seconds longer, you would have gotten to the next threshold and been like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And then you kind of expound on that. That doesn't happen. And I feel like that's exactly what happened to Jim Carrey, kind of bringing that shit around. You like that? You like how I brought that right back around? No, but for reals though, I think that's what happened to Jim Carrey. 100%. Just people didn't listen to what he said. They thought about it and they're like, oh, this sounds inappropriate. And then they didn't hear him when he said, like, it's all done. Oh, wait a minute. He can't be talking about banging her, like wanting to bang her, and that's it. He must be talking about the interview, because he's saying it's done. That's the thing that's happening right now. So it's finished. That's it. It's all good. Chill out, people. Fuck.
Have you ever tried DMT? Oh, fuck! Fuck! Ah! Jamie! Jamie! Quickly! Jamie! Pull up that video of the dog killing a king cobra.
So a lot of people have been wanting me to do this, and a lot of you probably don't know about this at all. And I also want to say that this isn't serious at all. This is like petty drama, like that. What do they call it now? The tea. It's the tea or whatever. It's not like anything groundbreaking. If you're looking for something like, ruin Joe Rogan's credibility or something like that, or he's done, he didn't follow proto. No, you're not gonna. No, it's not anything about that. It's just a stupid little personal thing that a lot of you know what I'm talking about, but most of you probably have no idea. So, over 2 years ago, and this trips me out still, because let me also say that I've been listening to the Joe Rogan Experience since 2012. I started listening to it because my friend put on the podcast when I spent the night at his house one time, because I came back from Arizona because I was living there for a little while. And then he just put it on. They were talking about all DMT, something like that. And I was like, this is really interesting. And I was completely aware of Joe Rogan before, obviously. I'd seen him on, Fear Factor, and I even saw a cameo on Mad TV and stuff, and I'm like, oh, who's this guy? And so, totally aware of Joe Rogan. I've always liked the guy. And so, it was like something like, I've been listening to his podcast now for 8 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. And in between all that stuff, he was one of the reasons why I even got inspired to do podcasting. And I think I mentioned in my first episode of this podcast that the first podcast I ever attempted to do was a cell phone. I recorded with the cell phone. I had a Droid X, and I recorded in a park with my friend Nando, and I uploaded it to Podbean. So my first podcast was there, and I listened to it. It was cringy. It was terrible. I took it down because I'm like, holy crap, this is awful. Maybe someday I'll actually, pull a clip from it or something like that, so you guys can hear my very beginning. So obviously I was inspired by Joe Rogan to start a podcast. I tried to do more podcasting in 2013. And here I am now. So the thing is, I've always wanted to be on the Joe Rogan Experience. That's the thing. I'm like, oh, that's the pinnacle. I want to be on JRE. I would love that. I look up to Joe Rogan. I think he's badass, blah, 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 blah. And so obviously I would think that I would have to have a lot of notoriety. I would have to do something pretty chill to ever catch his interest or anything like that. And then I kind of just got lucky, I think. So, and I have to give a shout out to Jordan Peterson because of this. Because Jordan Peterson reached out to me in 2017, and I did an interview with him. It was pretty dope. Like, it was mutually beneficial because he wanted to reach out to my audience, and I mean, talking to Jordan was really cool. Now, I made a video, and Jordan Peterson retweeted it, and because of that, Joe Rogan saw it. And Joe Rogan DM'd me on Twitter, and you said, like, hey, you're funny and all that shit. He followed me, and I was kind of marking out because I'm like, holy shit, like that's amazing. And not too long afterwards, I would say early 2018, like January, I think it was January 2018, he asked me to be on the podcast. And so obviously I was like kind of blown away, but I definitely accepted. I was like, yeah, whatever you want to do it, man. Like, my schedule will be completely open for that, obviously. And so it was like, cool. I didn't really hear back from him. And then it wasn't until maybe like the summer of 2018, we chatted a little bit again. And then he told me, I'll get you on the podcast soon. And so I was like, dope. I'm not like, obviously no rush. Like, dude, I was never expecting at any point in time recently or anything. I thought I would have to really do something to be up there. And, I guess maybe to a lot of people, they're, having hundreds of thousands of subscribers is no joke, I guess. But I just didn't really think of it in that way. I thought like that's kind of like untouchable, like, to be honest. So time went on, a little bit of contact with him, but nothing about the podcast. And I think it wasn't until maybe this year I just thought, might as well follow up. It doesn't matter, just say, hey man, like, still would love to be on the show. Nothing happened, no response. Now look, I'm not salty. It's not about that, because a lot of people have been asking me what's up, because I mentioned on Instagram. That was the place where I really mentioned that, like, holy shit, because I didn't want to make a big deal of it on Twitter, especially since he's on Twitter. I didn't want him to see it. I was like, let me mark out on Instagram. And so when people are like, "Is gonna happen? What's happening? What happened? Did he ghost you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's whatever, man. Like he probably he's a really busy guy, and then he just probably lost interest." And I was like, "That's fine," because I wasn't expecting to be on the show anytime soon. Yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer because it's like, holy shit, like one of my milestones to be on that podcast, I was almost achieved, which is crazy to think about, because that is one of those things that I would just love to do. I would love to have that conversation. Like, I don't really even need to necessarily be on the podcast, but I would definitely like to just sit down with Joe and have a conversation with him about a lot of shit, because I really do like the dude. So that was unfortunate. So a lot of people were like, what's happening? What's happening? I was like, I should finally say something. And the reason why I'm finally putting it in a video, not only to just address it and then so a lot of people can know, like, here's this link. Here's the explanation. Am I going on it? Check this video. And the other thing is, I remember one time CT Fletcher, somebody that I like, goofy, loudmouth CT Fletcher, the fitness motivator. He was talking trash to Joe Rogan in a friendly banter way to kind of get his attention. And I think that's the way that it actually worked. But CT Fletcher is obviously infinitely bigger than I am as far as notoriety or clout or whatever you want to call it. And so that actually worked, because usually I imagine if you do anything like that, it would totally backfire. So I'm not going to talk shit or anything like that, but I did want to just put this out here in the chances or hopes that Joe might even see this and just be like, hey, man, still want to be on the podcast. What's up, man? I think it would be a great podcast. Let's do this shit. Why are you breaking my fucking heart, man? But no, like, legitimately, I'm not sour, but I definitely, if there is a chance to still go on, I'd still love to go on. But to be 100% honest with all of you guys, there's been more of a shift of like my favorite podcasts, because Joe Rogan was always like the top. I'm always going to listen. Always listen. When I was at work, working for Newegg, working at a warehouse, wherever, I would always be listening to JRE. But I recently discovered in the past couple of years, Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina P. That's my favorite podcast. 100%. I am 100% certified. I'm a 100% certified mommy. If you guys listen to the podcast, you know. And you guys know all the references I drop from Your Mom's House when I'm streaming or whatever. A lot of you guys are mommies too. Keeping your pants high and tight. Huge fan. Now, that's the pinnacle for me. Like, Joe Rogan's podcast is just right under it, because I definitely would love to have an engaging and cool conversation with Joe. But being on Your Mom's House podcast and laughing at all the stupid clips and telling them how much they meant to me, and seriously, how much me and my ex-girlfriend bonded over Your Mom's House, and in some of my other current friends too. It's just a great time, and that just seems like a great time. So I more am looking towards that, and obviously I want to go on the church and talk to Joey Diaz. These are all things, man. Donnell Rollins now has a podcast. Love Donnell. And so that's another podcast I would love to be on. There's a myriad of podcasts I would love to be on. But it's just like I have other things that I'd like to do as well. So it's like, hey, maybe at some point I can get on some of those podcasts. But one thing, and let me make this clear, one thing I don't want you guys to do, I don't want you guys to bug any of these people. Because I know a lot of these people, they get mad when you do that. I don't give a fuck, to be honest. I don't care when people if anyone's trying to tag me and get my attention and stuff, I'll check what's going on. I'll either be like, if I'm interested, I'll talk to the person. If I'm not, okay, whatever. But I'm not going to just discount you simply because, oh, you sent your people over. Who do you think you are? Like, I don't know. I have much more humility than that. I'm just being real. So, but I don't want any bullshit like that to happen, because I know some people feel differently than I do. But I just want to put that out there. I want to call out Joe Rogan and say, hey, bro, it's been 2 years. Obviously, 2 years probably means you don't give a fuck anymore. But hey, I have nothing to lose, and it still is a milestone. So if you're listening to this, man, if you're watching this, let's set something up, dude. I have a lot of shit I want to talk about. Fucking huge MMA fan. I want to do some bow hunting. Talk to you about all the weird shit that's been happening in the woke culture and all the crazy shit that's been going down. Still love to talk to you about all that shit. You let me down, that's fine. I'll move on. But hey, still gotta try.
We just got a letter Wonder who it's from.
We're bang, okay?
So normally this would be the segment of where I was supposed to answer questions, AMA, Q&A, the mailbag segment or whatever. Unfortunately, I was so insanely busy this weekend, I completely forgot to tell my patrons to, hey, ask me some questions and stuff. Completely forgot. I've been swamped just completely. I took a 20-minute nap so I could bust these videos out, like do this podcast and other videos and stuff that I need to catch up on. And I still got so much more work to do. Just a busy month. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot to put out the questions. And so I apologize. And what I'm going to do is I'll just get to you all on the next episode, and episode 3, because it just completely slipped my mind. But I'm working hard. I'm doing a lot of content, just I'll be putting out videos regularly. I'll be chopping up the podcast segments. I'll be doing Twitter trash videos, streaming every Saturday. It's just always this. There's going to be much more content than I've done in a very long time. And just getting everything together, doing the podcast, the Snark Tank podcast with Chris Reagan and Tom Sweeney. That's another thing that takes a few hours out of my Sunday, which usually Sunday is the day that I'm really grinding all day. And it's Sunday now. And so once I was done over there, I set up some stuff, took a 20-minute nap, and just went right back to work. And now I'm going to go fucking edit after this. Not complaining at all, but I'm just letting you guys know the grind, If you do want to be a YouTuber, you're going to have to do a lot of work. You're going to have to do a lot of work, because there's some people that only edit, right, for their job. Their only job is editing. But now it's like, you got to do everything unless you have enough money to pay somebody. And I don't. I do not have enough money to pay people. I've considered having an intern. I was like, yeah, maybe I should get an intern. But to be honest, I don't know. I feel bad. Like, if someone's going to help me out or work for me, I want to pay them, It's just something that I've considered, but at the same time, I think I just need to, like Joe Rogan says, conquer your inner bitch. Just fucking hustle. I just need to stop making excuses and be like, man, I don't have enough time. Because the biggest thing is, I don't really have enough time to play video games as much anymore. Like, I can just play like a few things here and there, 20 minutes here, something like that. But I can't sit down for a good hour or two and play video games. I just don't have time. But that's fine. This is what I chose to do, and I like it. It's despite all of the problems that YouTube has and everything, I still dig the fuck out of this, right? Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But that's it for the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Hope none of y'all were too upset about all the shit that I was saying. I doubt it. Obviously, you guys won't be upset at all. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate all of your guys' support. You guys are the fucking best. And if you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/someblackguy, and you can $2 get you the questions and everything like that. And also, I didn't even say that the podcast is on iTunes and other platforms, but somebody already dropped a rating. Thank you so much. If you guys want to rate me on iTunes, like it's there on Apple, it's on Google Play, it is on Spotify, it's everywhere. Wherever you get your podcast, this podcast is available. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next episode, man. I'll see you. Yeah, I'll see you very soon. Oh yeah.